The basics of changing the subject of a formula. When you change the subject of a formula, what that means is you make another letter equal to everything else. So if I can explain to you using question 1, y equals x minus 3. So what it says here is make x the subject. Now what that means is at the moment it says y equals x minus 3. So y equals everything else that's part of that formula. We want it to be so that x equals everything else. So in order to do that, we need to firstly draw 2 lines like so to separate the formula into 2 parts. So on the left hand side we have the y, on the right hand side we have the x minus 3. Now remember, we want to make x equal everything else. So everything that's close to the x, we want to get rid of that. So we have a minus 3 next to the x. How do we get rid of minus 3? Well, we need to add 3, because minus 3 plus 3 is 0, and that's what we want. We want to get rid of the 3, or the minus 3. Now whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So if I've added 3 on this side, I need to also add 3 on this side. And then I need to write down what I have left. So starting from the left hand side, y plus 3 equals x. So now you can see that we have rearranged our formula successfully, and we've changed the subject to x equals y plus 3. Even though it says y plus 3 equals x, it doesn't matter which way around it is, it's exactly the same thing. So I could also write x equals y plus 3, and it's exactly the same thing. Question 2, c equals x plus 4. So again, we're going to have to draw the lines just to separate the 2 parts of the formula. And I need to get rid of the 4 because it says make x the subject. The 4 is with the x. Now at the moment the 4 is a positive, so it's a plus 4. So to get rid of it, to make it 0, I have to take 4 away on this side. Now remember, whatever I do to one side I have to do to the other, because this is like a balancing scale. So on this side minus 4, so if I do the same thing here, minus 4, then I have to write down what's left. So c minus 4 equals x. So now I've successfully made x the subject. Again, you could write it the other way around as well. X equals c minus 4, but this is absolutely fine. Excellent. Moving on to question 3. Question 3 says y equals 2a. Now, let's draw our lines in first. Now the 2a actually means 2 multiplied by a. So whenever you see a term like 2a or 3a or 4a or 5x, any number with a letter next to it, the sign is multiply. So it says to make a the subject. To make a the subject, I have to do the opposite of multiplying by 2, because I want to get rid of the 2. So if I divide by 2, which is the opposite, divide by 2 and then divide by 2 on the other side as well. So remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Then on the left hand side I get y over 2, because that's the same as y divided by 2, equals, now 2 divided by 2 is 1. So it is 1a, however we just need to write a. And that is the reason why we divided by 2, because it was the opposite or the inverse of multiplying, and that got rid of the 2 for us. Question number 4. Question 4 is the opposite of question 3. Here we have a division. So first thing I'm going to do is draw the lines. Now, the question says, make y the subject. In order to make y the subject, we have to do the opposite of division, which is multiplication. So at the moment, y is being divided by 3. So what do you think we need to do now? What is the opposite of divided by 3? That's right, we have to multiply this side by 3. And if I multiply that side by 3, what do I also have to do to the other side? Excellent. That's right, we have to multiply that side by 3 as well, because we have to make sure that the equation is balanced. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So now I have to write down what I'm left with. So 3x, because remember, 3 times x is 3x, equals, and if I multiply that by 3, y over 3 times 3, I end up with just y. Now if you're wondering how we actually got rid of the 3 by multiplying by 3, what actually happened here is if I write down y over 3 times by 3 over 1, this is the same as y over 3 multiplied by 3. Then what happens is I multiply the numerators together, so I get 3y, and then I also multiply the denominators together, so I get 3 times 1 is 3. Now this actually means 3y divided by 3. So 3y divided by 3, if I do 3 divided by 3, it's just 1, so they cancel out. So what am I left with? That's right, it's just the y. And that's how we got the y over here. A problem question. Dr. Strange has found a cure, T, for a global virus. He confirms you can mix ingredients in the exact quantities to make the cure. The formula for T is half of a part of X plus 1 part of C. Dr. Strange has assigned you the task of finding out what X is in terms of C and T. Can you find the answer? In order to answer this question, we have to first take out all the key pieces of information. So if we start right from the beginning, Dr. Strange has found a cure, T. So this cure is called T. So I'm just going to write T. He confirms you can mix ingredients in the exact quantities to make the cure. Now we don't know what these ingredients are yet. If we read on, the formula for T is half of a part of X. Okay, so the formula for T, so T equals half of X. So I can just write X over 2, because X divided by 2 is half of X, plus, and then it says plus 1 part of C. So 1 part of C is just 1C, or I can just write C. And you can see now that we actually have a formula from that information. Let's read on. Dr. Strange has assigned you the task of finding out what X is in terms of C and T. Now what that part is telling us to do is to actually make X the subject, as we have been doing just before with the other questions. So in order for us to make X the subject, we just need to rearrange this formula. But firstly, we need to draw our 2 lines. And this time we have 2 things that are with the X. The first thing is the X divided by 2. So the 2 is with the X, it's dividing the X. And then we also have this plus C. So we actually need to get rid of both of them. Can you think of how you can go about starting the rearranging of this formula? That's right. The first thing we need to do is we need to focus on the C. We always focus on whatever is furthest away from the x. And obviously the 2 is very close to the x. The c is further away. So the first thing we need to do is focus on what is further away. So plus c, now we want to get rid of the plus c. So what do? We have to minus c from this side. Now remember, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So if I minus c from this side, I have to also minus c from this side. Now I can write down t minus c equals, because it is t minus c, so t minus c equals, and I still have my x over 2. Excellent. Now, the next step is I need to get the x on its own. So I still have x divided by 2. So what do I need to do to both sides? Excellent. I need to multiply by 2 on both sides, because at the moment the 2 is dividing, and the opposite of dividing is multiply. So multiply by 2 on this side and multiply by 2 on this side. And let's see what we're left with. So t minus c multiplied by 2. What that means is you have to multiply the t and the c both by 2. So the t and the negative c have to both be multiplied by 2. So I could write that in a bracket like this: 2 multiplied by t minus c equals, and now let's go on to the right hand side. So equals, now remember, we have multiplied the x over 2 by 2. So we are eliminating the 2. So we are just left with x. Fantastic. So now we have made x a subject. And the question said, Dr. Strange has assigned you the task of finding out what x is in terms of c and t. And that's exactly what we've done. We found x is 2 multiplied by t minus c. And that's exactly what x is in terms of t and c.